Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Rocket Lab Weekly. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear and see us. So sorry I was not here last week. Literally, I was really looking forward to that show because we had this space drama happening between Musk and Trump. And then like 20 minutes before the show, my son just woke up from his sleep and was like, "Dad, I feel like I'm going to throw up." And he was crying and yeah, it was not possible. And then, instead of being on Rocket Lab Weekly, I held a kid who was vomiting the whole night and stayed up. It was fun. But this week is a new week, and we have with us Sir Matt Money and Scotto. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us, as always.
Yeah, thanks for always being here. And thanks for taking over the show on like 10 minutes notice.
They did a good
all
job.
day.
Yeah, I just showed up as always.
Cool. So it looks like Dave has made too much money on Rocket Lab, and he's also has gotten the math sickness of buying houses all the time. So he's on his housewarming party. But I guess that's a good excuse. That's what we want to achieve here: financial freedom and stuff like this. But how are you guys doing, Scott? Any baby on the horizon?
Not yet, but yeah, a lot's changing fast. It's to make a long story short, we're technically we're defined as a high risk pregnancy. So I won't bore you guys with the details, but a lot of appointments, and we got a call yesterday, and they told us that plans changed, but they're going to encourage the baby out this like in the next couple days here, and then if that doesn't work, they're gonna make the baby come out the following week. So they're originally planned for July, I think 7th was the original due date. So coming home a little bit earlier, but hoping for a happy and healthy baby.
Yeah,
that's
thoughts,
cool.
Thoughts with you,
that's
man.
Cool. Yeah, I hope I don't know if I can ask, but like the high risk, is it due to your wife's age, or is it like some other factors, or
some other stuff, but nothing.
Okay,
it's like one of those things. It's like it's very minor, but it's just the classification is just more scary sounding than it really is.
Yeah. I was actually shocked when like we were having our fourth baby, and my wife is 35, I think now 36, something like this. And then when you're in this age, like I think at 37, like you're automatically like a risk category, like and that's why I was asking. And even we were like flagged for certain tests, because of the So it's that's why I was asking, like if that's why. But because I don't know your age, you look like this guy who could be 60 and still looks 20. I don't know.
Still in high school, yeah.
No, I'm 35 and wife is 30. You're 29, 30.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. And Matt, how are you doing? Any women knocking on the door with babies or
no baby news for Maddie Money? No. But the applications, DMs, everything are always open. So nobody ever takes me up, but I get it. I'm not the easiest person to get along with, so that's probably one.
Cool. And so how is the stock market for you guys this week? Just so that we stay on brand on the show.
We talk about stocks? Sorry.
It's pretty good for myself. I don't think I'm quite at all-time highs, but I did trim, I don't know, maybe 40% of my red wire position. I bought a bunch. I bought back in March, I guess it was. I bought 2 blocks in March, and it's just really outperformed. So at the time of buying, red wire was like, I think 10 to 12% of the total portfolio, and then it kind of outperformed to like 20%. So it was a bit of rebalancing and just like, I think between the 2 blocks, one was at 60% in 3 months, and the other was 140% in 2 months or something crazy like that. So just wanted to take some off the table and kind of look around, sort of a deal. Yeah,
it's understandable. So silly question with that, is that more so because you think it's run up too quickly, you think you might be able to buy in later, or is it more along the lines of you think it's fully valued with where it's at today and you'd like to see it grow into a valuation before you potentially
it's just kind of it's just kind of hit the target that I thought it would have hit in a much longer time frame. That paired with I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around this new acquisition that was voted in literally yesterday.
Yeah.
In terms of like debt dilution, etc. But without saying too much, well, I won't promise anything, but I'm aiming to have a little bit more out later this week in regards to that. So stay tuned. And unless baby is here, then I have other priorities.
You do you think it's going to be a sell the news event eventually when it kind of goes through?
I think so.
You could wait to say it if you think that that's part of your
Well,
video.
no, like honestly, it is, and especially if you are looking at like Voyager, which is like borderline meme stock territory with their current valuation, like all in all, like Redwire is like a price to sales of, probably between 5 and 10 for sure after the acquisition, but that's heavily dependent on like the dilution and whatnot. So I think and just like the algorithm trading, when we do get that Q2 print, I think it's going to shock a few people. The difference in shares, the difference in debt. But I mean, to be fair, like the difference in revenue and everything else is pretty much enough to offset that. But it is just a lot of action in a short period of time, ultimately.
It's going to be people moving in, moving out.
Exactly.
So yeah, with that potentially, okay.
Because they're
definitely
like
been
borderline.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like there's still a space company for sure, but like they took space out of their name, and it's like just kind of as a testament to like this is like terrestrial now as well. Well, technically, you know what I mean.
Yes,
all the drones and whatnot. Yeah.
You did very well in segueing, because it was actually one of the subject. If we were done with the Rocket Lab news, like I was going to have some questions about Redwire, and that was exactly my question, because I read a little bit about it, and I'm like, is it still a space company? Because it feels like this new acquisition brings a very big revenue source that is, I don't know the current percentage, but it's a very big revenue side that is not connected to space.
Yeah, it essentially doubles. It's like basically an entire second business of the same size that Redwire now is. So it's like pretty much a rewrite of all their financials and whatnot. So there have been some breadcrumbs, thankfully, like in the form of like 8Ks and whatnot. So there is some stuff to go by. But like I said, a lot of due diligence coming soon. So stay tuned.
Cool. All right. So
with respect to me, I'm like 1.5 to 2% of all-time highs. I think the majority of the reason why we're pulled back for me is, what was I going to say? Because Rocket Lab's pulled back a little bit. Obviously, we're at $30, earlier in the week or last month, and now we've kind of pulled back to $25. So, yeah, interesting. So
it is very interesting. Yeah, awesome. Then
but the portfolio is very close to being in a milestone. Sorry, I paused there, but yeah, portfolio is very close to being in a milestone. Really looking for the next opportunity. I've kind of been in a. I'll just be blunt. I think I said this might have last week or maybe in my own personal stream. Sorry to cut you off there, Vince, but I'm kind of sitting here like in a lull, trying to understand like what's the next thing, right? And I kind of go through these tranches where I'm like, okay, I'm able to take something on, get it done, and then you kind of fit in this world where you're kind of swimming and stretching yourself a little bit thin. And the past couple of months or so, I've been kind of comfortable, even regardless of how the portfolio has done extremely well over the past few months and year or so, and how that's grown, relatively substantially. Now I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's that thing? What's that thing I need to put into motion to be able to get myself to that next step? Is it something I just need to keep doing what I'm doing, put my head down, or is it something else where I really need to focus and potentially do something that scales very immensely and allows me to kind of hit a new target within the portfolio and broader opportunities that I have at my fingertips? So, yeah, been talking about it with Dougie Dallas and a few other folks as well. But curious, but overall, nothing bad. Like I said, 1.5, 2% within all-time highs of the portfolio, but always looking for that next opportunity.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sure that we will be hearing about it when the time comes, and we are interestedly following the journey. It's great with the new milestone. Sounds like some 7-figure stuff, or Lambo maybe, or but
No Lambo.
Yeah, no Lambo. But congratulations in any case.
Thank you.
Cool. So let's start off the news for Rocket Lab. Let me put on the screen. So we have had a successful launch this week, which was the 4th mission for QPS in Japan out of 8 missions. And I don't know. I don't have so much to comment about launches other than this was the 3rd in the quarter. I think 8th for the year. We are hoping for 2 more launches this quarter, but we only have 15 days, and the new launch date is not set. I'm quite sure in at least 4 launches this quarter. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I think there's a slight error on Rocket Lab's post. That was the 4th. That was their 4th overall, but 3rd out of 8 missions.
Did they not check with you before they posted? What the hell?
How dare they?
We need to take this up with Muriel.
I'm just double checking. Yeah, it was a 3rd of 8 in contract, 4th overall. Yeah. Hire me. I will work for shares.
Cool. Yeah, and Matt, do you have anything you want to say about the launch?
No, Muriel did a phenomenal job presenting as always, and as she alluded to, upcoming launches here. So hopefully, we might get another launch here in the second quarter, which will be beautiful to be able to watch. And curious to see what comes for the 3rd quarter, because we're not too far away, 15, 16 days from that starting. So I would say overall, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but I guess on target to slightly below target from what I was expecting for the 2nd quarter in terms of total launch. I think if we get 4 launches in the quarter, I'm kind of happy with that. 3 launches, I'd be kind of underwhelmed a little bit. And I would not to say like just for the quarter, right? So my hope would be is that if they were to only do 3 this quarter, that they would hopefully do 5 to 6, maybe even more in the 3rd quarter, and to be able to keep on that 20 plus target that I think that they had. I think I had 22 for my target. Obviously that puts a strain because I think this is what, number 7 so far, or 8 for the year, Scott?
Number 8, yeah.
8 for
number 8, yeah. So that would mean that they have to come up with 12 missions within the next 6.5 months. Which is doable. They're running at a pace at about 1 launch every 17 days right now. So I think it's possible. But I would like to see it get down to 15 to maybe even on an average 12 days by the end of the year, a launch every 12 days.
During the stream, they actually did mention that the next launch would also be from New Zealand, and that it is 2 weeks away. So I think we can lock in a 4th for Q2. I'm not sure who exactly it might be, though. It's Hawkeye and Capella were last known to be no earlier than June, but granted, I think it was Capella, just looking now. Hawkeye, actually, it was supposed to be no earlier than June 1st. So, oh, hold on. Yep, should have checked this first. So Kestrel, okay, sweet. So I think I just stumbled upon our launch. Cluster 12 from Hawkeye, as well as their, I think, next gen satellite, Kestrel 0A is what it's called. I think it's actually maybe even a demo sat. According to just as a filing for March 31st, are scheduled to launch on June 26th, which does line up nicely with that mention of 2 weeks away from another launch from LC1. So that might be our next launch. There you have it.
Awesome.
We'll take it.
It's funny how a big difference is if like we stay at this level, then in the first half year we did 8, and then it's like to reach 20, it's like 12 left. But if we reach 10, then it's like only 10 left to have like a fantastic year. like funny how that much difference that small number makes. Cool. Just want to show you guys something. Probably there will be technical errors, but Peter Beck posted that for the first time in history, you can hear what a stage 2 sounds like with our new live audio from space. So I want to see if you guys can hear this.
It's like amateur hour with you, Vince, every time.
Okay, so then I will stop sharing and reshare it. I have no clue. It has its own life, my audio sharing. So I have to share this one. Okay, let's see now.
Miko confirmed.
Stage 3 operation confirmed.
Stage 3 confirmed.
That is a healthy Rutherford engine startup on the second stage. Now that
Okay, so it's funny when I turned this on, I was like the first time I heard it, I was like expecting this, very deep like boom, and then instead it was like my coffee grinder machine. So I wasn't sure that they're like new tech. We have sound from space, and then they recorded the coffee grinder. But I don't know how. Again, I'm not an engineer. Maybe you guys know how they can make the sound where there is no sound. Do you guys know how they made this? Or
I guess just like the vibrations of the structure, and I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Like they make that like the vibration into sound waves, and then
I think so. That's my understanding. Like we use Born Vibe to recreate audio. I assume that means like
okay.
I don't know. Someone smarter than me can explain.
Okay, but that's pretty cool. And then so back to the launch, there was also a sort of Neutron update. Not really, but I still feel like I want to show it to you guys. Just 1 minute, and let me please show immediately if the audio is working or not.
one of our busiest launch years ever. And the launch site at the center of that, of course, has been Launch Complex 1. Now, our launch site features 2 launch pads, Pad A, where Electron will be taking off from this morning, and Pad B right next door, which is where our next mission will fly from. The dual pad setup is all about minimizing the pad recycle time that's needed between launches from the same platform. So with 2 launch pads on site, we reset one while we launch from the other, which is what makes the possibility of back-to-back missions so good. Now, our quickest turnaround yet, though, happened to be not from these 2 pads at LC1, but from LC1 and our Launch Complex 2 site on Wallops Island, Virginia, where we flipped 2 launches within 24 hours from opposite sides of the world. Now, our pad for Electron missions and hypersonic test flights on our HASTE rocket is located within the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport on Virginia's eastern shore, and is set to see plenty of action in the months to come too. And of course, there is our brand new launch site for our new rocket Neutron, positioned right next door to Launch Complex 2, that's set to be completed and officially opened soon ahead of Neutron's debut flight.
So that was the only thing, that it's supposed to be officially open soon. And we saw how the pad looks. It looks very, very done. Like if you saw the tanks, the only thing that is missing is this like tunnel for the flame, which I'm not sure that it's needed for the first flight, but maybe it is. I don't know. But my point is, if we don't start seeing a Neutron being assembled on the pad soon, I think the 2025 launch starts to be like in question. Like obviously we have like some time left. Like I'm not talking days, but remember that Sir Peter Beck said that Neutron has to be on the pad for, my understanding was a few months until they do all kinds of tests, and they will be very, very careful with that. I would translate that for like 3 months. It has to be on the pad. And we are in June. June plus 3 months is September. and there's no rocket on the pad yet. So what do you guys think about the Neutron progress? Are you guys getting worried about not seeing it on the pad? And yeah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I can easily. So I think, I'm a cautiously optimistic guy. So first and foremost, I don't necessarily care from a stock price perspective if the launch happens in 2025, 2026. I think what I'm most concerned about is that when it does happen, it happens appropriately. And I want to believe Pete, and I do believe Pete, when he says we're not putting the rocket on the launch pad unless we're 92% success, 92% sure that it's going to be successful. And I hold that to heart. I believe him, and his execution ability in the past. I know it can't be indicative of future results, but I believe him when he says that. The other thing that I think a lot of people might be harping about, and I'll gladly eat my hat just like Pete did if I'm wrong on this, is I feel like people are looking too much at, it's not green, so it's not going to happen anytime soon, right? When I'm talking about the specific remaining qualifications, like the dynamic testing, the wet integration test, the pad certification, the engine qualification, etc. But if you just take, for instance, how complete Launch Complex 3 looked in that video, with the exception of potentially that tunnel that you were mentioning, Vince, and whether or not that actually needs to be in there, they pretty much have said like it's pretty much there, right? And if you take that and recognize that the engine qualification's been ongoing for over a year at this point, and many other things, then you could say these things are getting to the point where they're 80 to 90% completed. And so unfortunately we can't see like a little project tracker or long lead tracker or even critical path tracker like they're probably utilizing at Rocket Lab, and that many engineering firms do use. We're using literally stoplights. And so with the stoplights, they're not even, green, yellow, red, orange, right? They're like either yellow or green, and that's all we can read, or not filled at all, right? So, I mean, it's very simplistic in terms of, hey, you're either in the backlog, you're either working it, or you're completed. So very, very low in terms of quantitative ability to be able to certify where some of these things are at. So I'm still cautiously optimistic. Obviously, if we start getting into July and we don't hear anything by the second quarter earnings call, which will probably be late July, early August, then at that point, you're probably saying, okay, like at this point, you can't have all these qualification testing, fully integrated tests, wet integrated test, engine qualification, everything all lining up within the last 5 months of the year to be able to get you to where you're at. But at least from what I've understood with our conversation with Pete and everybody, well, I guess not everybody, Pete and Adam at 1Q, so just a month or two ago, was really around, okay, once you kind of get it fully integrated, wet tested, you, like you stated, Vince, you probably have 2.5 to 3 months on a perfect trajectory. All the paths going green, everything turning out well, then you'll be okay. But let's think about this, guys. Like they announced this in 2020. It's not like we're 20 years down the road. So in that respect, I still think that this is rapid pace for a rocket launch. And to me, it's about getting it right the first time. And I think the thing that is for me, and then I want to hand it to Scott to hear his thoughts, is it's not like they are only building this one rocket, right? Which could be a plus or negative. They're so confident in what they're doing that they're already building the second Neutron, right? And the components of that. They have multiple, not multiple work streams, but multiple streams to be able to get multiple rocket engines, Archimedes, etc. So these guys are going at full scale as fast as they can, ramping up, because they're so confident that the first Neutron will be successful. And that maybe the only thing they have to do is a few tweaks here or there. So to me, even if it takes a little bit, I think the thing that you need to think about is the confidence in which they have for further opportunities to go forward. So to me, I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. And once we get the first launch, it's going to be like watching an Electron here pretty quickly, where it's like, okay, they do this 20 times a year. It's not that special anymore. It's going to happen very rapidly. And I think another piece about it as well, and I know this isn't particularly specific about the Neutron launch, but you think Neutron launch, then you think about where we're at in terms of potential profitability 6 months after that, and then 6 months, and then after a year or so, 2027 timeframe, the potential eligibility for the S&P 500, depending on what the market cap of the company is, but definitely still introduction into small cap S&P or many other ETFs that'll really be able to benefit from a stock price perspective, the floor of the price. So to me, I don't necessarily care when. I've been a holder into this and knowing that it's going to take until 2030, 2035 before you start to see real value out of this thing. And I'm just happy that we've gotten to the place where we're at today. I think we're ahead of schedule from my perspective and what that share price looks like. But yeah, I'm still cautiously optimistic, but even if it does push into 26, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you, Matt. I'm like cautiously optimistic, but I'm still in the mind that we'll get a launch in like later 2025. And Jacob was it's kind of lost on me now, but he was in the comments mentioning he's under the impression that this video that was shown during the stream is probably a month or so old already. So we are even further along than what we might expect based on the stream. But go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say that's a good point, because we have the people who live near Wallops, and they could go around and show a picture any day that there's like the beginnings of a neutron standing on the pad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And everything's going to domino very fast. Like Matt, you mentioned that timeline that's on their website. I don't think. Well, I know those aren't like one has to be done, then the next, then the next. You're just going to see them light up in very short order, and the Neutron ideally go up in short order as well. So, yeah, cautiously optimistic, fingers crossed, but still under the assumption we'll see 2025.
What if it doesn't, Scott? Is that a signal for you?
No.
Like
at this point, like we've already been through one delay, and even if it's delayed by a full year, like there's still an argument to be made for the rest of Rocket Lab as the company. So
yeah, this is why I was like so sad I missed the last week, because I think for me also that the space drama that happened with Musk and Isaacman and the Trump Musk decoupling, and even though it seems like they have somewhat reconciled, I think that it opened up Rocket Lab, like it opened up a lot of people's eyes in the government that they cannot be reliant on, one provider. And I think it opened up a lot of investors' eyes, because there was so many people who was not even willing to look at Rocket Lab because SpaceX was so dominant. And I saw so many people on Twitter that was basically out of principle, not even looking at Rocket Lab, was saying that, okay, I actually need to start some due diligence now.
mm-hmm.
And I think it makes like a second bull case for Rocket Lab, and I think that they're going to get more government contracts than they would have gotten otherwise. And I think that whatever income Neutron loses out on, it will be more than made up for by the opportunity that got unlocked for them in government.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's just funny because I noticed it even on myself that I'm like, this Neutron launch, like it's super exciting, but I'm like, there is some very juicy government things coming up, which will, like, it makes it like, a year ago it was like the big thing, like it was the key for everything, and opening to their space infrastructure, opening to bigger contracts, and I don't feel today is the same. Yeah. All right. So we go to the next one. The next news is a tweet by BlackSky that was retweeted and translated by Scotto from the language that it was written. So it looks like BlackSky's newest Gen 3 deliveries will have a higher cadence than it was anticipated. And I guess that means that Rocket Lab will launch satellites faster. And but maybe Scott, you could tell us what exactly this means.
Yeah, all in all, like the most recent launch that Rocket Lab had with BlackSky was the second Gen 3 satellite of BlackSky. So typically when a new type of satellite goes into orbit, it usually takes about 3 to 6 months, I think is kind of standard for, to test the systems to make sure everything's communicating or whatnot. And Gen 3, by comparison, was sending images within the first month. So granted, they do have that, this obviously isn't their first constellation, BlackSky's, but it's just showing that the communication for the satellites is kind of on an expedited timeline, especially with the second one coming live within 12 hours after launch. So that's really good in terms of what we can expect going forward for launch cadence. But one kind of, I guess, point of curiosity is at the rate that I'm expecting, or at the rate that even BlackSky is expecting, Rocket Lab and BlackSky will be out of launches in, I think, Q3, maybe Q4. So I have my fingers crossed that we're going to get news on the Q2 print, or hopefully even earlier, that maybe we signed another block order with BlackSky. Because I'm not sure if SpaceX would have identified if BlackSky was a customer coming up, but if they haven't signed with SpaceX already, they're going to wish they had about 2 years ago. I had one more other thing to say, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, expect more launches from BlackSky going forward.
All right, that's good news for us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's a very interesting one, which I don't really know what to do with. So Tran posted that the Rocket Lab's director of business development space systems spoke last week at the Space and Tech Expo about the role of vertical integration in shaping the future of 5G in space. And one of the attendants that was there posted pictures of the presentation and wrote her little summary of what was said. And she said that her favorite panel that was hosted by Rocket Lab and whose mission is to own the entire vertical operations of building satellite constellations in space to enhance a 5G infrastructure for increased global connectivity. And she also, posted this from the presentation, the role of vertical integration in shaping the future of 5G in space. And this is by Lisa Kuo, business development space systems Rocket Lab. So it very much seemed like Rocket Lab is after the communications opportunity after all. Okay, that's kind of obvious after the recent acquisitions, but or like the Mynaric acquisition, but I didn't know that they were into the 5G and the space internet and how they would be in. So are you guys, this a little bit confounded me. So can you guys help me out here with what to think of this?
No.
Yeah, I'm still
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit trying to understand specifically, right? We know that you don't need spectrum to be able to deliver internet via, say, lasers or communications through lasers or anything like that. But at the same time, it's very much more difficult. You need to sync up your lasers, and that obviously requires effort, and you obviously have a smaller radius. So there could be use of, say, internet or communications through these satellites, which will have a lot higher kind of download and upload speeds, but much more difficult. And it gets me kind of curious as to who the customer is. Is it more so for, say, customers that work in very remote locations that are very focused or what have you? Because it's going to be very difficult to kind of roll out something like this to the broader sort of long-term customer. And, I'm kind of speaking out of my depth here, so just fully acknowledging that. But I guess it kind of gets me to think, specifically around what exactly will these laser minoric sort of terminals be used for, specifically for the SDA, and how will those be kind of used, and could that be used for business to satellite sort of communications, etc.? Because it doesn't seem like, from what we've heard from Pete and Adam, and I could be wrong on this, but it doesn't seem like they're going after sort of like a normal consumer-based sort of communication opportunity like they are for Starlink or like they are for AST Space Mobile. So I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit, and it's one of the reasons why I haven't raised my long-term market cap for Rocket Lab. I'm kind of sitting in like the 75 billion-ish range if Neutron is extremely successful, because I don't necessarily know what the long-term revenue stream looks like. So, once I kind of get a little bit more granularity on that and a little bit more understanding, I feel like it could definitely open up the long-term potential to grow Rocket Lab into being a kind of like 12 billion dollar, or sorry, 12-figure sort of business, unlike it is kind of trajected in my head today. So I'm still scratching my head a little bit as to how it's going to all work out.
Good. Then we're all scratching our heads.
Mhm.
I mean, because for me, their strategy has always been vague, and this feels like oddly specific, and Sir Peter Beck was always like, we see what opportunity comes our way, and that's what we will pursue. And yeah, this just feels, yeah. But we see what comes out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, we touched on this a little bit. I asked Grok 3, what's the state of the Musk-Trump feud? And even if, like, for me, this was a very, very, very significant event from Rocket Lab's future valuation. I don't know if it was the same for you guys. And even if they have reconciled their differences, and maybe they disagree in private now, I think it opened up a lot of doors for Rocket Lab, and I haven't managed to work it into my valuation model yet, but I do think that we have billions of dollars of new government contracts coming our way. That's my view. What do you guys think? You had 2 weeks now to suck on this candy.
I don't know. The timing of everything seems odd, like, dare I say, borderline scripted. Like, I'm kind of in that camp, and I don't have any explanation for it. Just the timing of so many things seems odd. Like, for them to reconcile after basically inferring that Trump's a pedo. I don't know. That's something that's not something like, if I accuse one of you guys of that or something, like, it's not something we just patch up in a week. So as far as like everybody taking it as some big reconciliation, I'm like, that's a pretty hefty claim to make, and then just shake hands after and be like, we're still bros, right? And to really put it in a tinfoil hat, the timing that JD Vance was on the Theo Vaughn podcast and Kash Patel was on the Rogan podcast at the same time as that broke, and to kind of hear Kash Patel's comments on a few different items compared to what he said in the past, I'm just like, I don't know, something's not adding up. And it's one of those, like, I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, well, what's this smoke screen actually for? And
Tinfoil Scott.
Exactly, yeah. Tim and myself are both touched. We like our tinfoil hats. But
Yeah,
I don't know, like, something seems odd, and I don't know if it's just I don't know. What do you guys think?
But then you also agree that it's like, even if they reconcile the differences, it's like something was broken that will not be like mended.
Yeah,
like permanent. Something was permanently broken when this happened.
Yeah, I think so. And to kind of take my hat off a little bit too, like, for Isaacman to be on All In podcast and mention that it was like somebody had an axe to grind, because I think it was Dave that I first saw post it, that Isaacman was kind of outed because somebody had an issue with Elon, and I'm like, how petty would you have to be to like attack Isaacman because you don't like Elon? Like they're not even that close, like in the grand scheme of things. So I thought that was like no way, but then there seems to be some credibility to that. And
I think,
I
yeah, I think you're onto something there. Whether it was a known kind of look over here, this is going on sort of thing that allowed some other things to kind of happen and distract while, some underlying things were going on behind the scenes. I've known that has happened in previous administrations. So it could be something like that. And yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that Trump shows up somewhere in the Epstein files, but yes, I agree. What he was insinuating was the fact that he was a pedophile, right? So I think there's a lot of people that probably show up on Epstein's list. I mean, he managed a lot of money for a lot of people, was very powerful, and so he rubbed shoulders with a lot of people. We've seen pictures with Trump and Epstein going back for decades, right? But yeah, to insinuate that is kind of tough, and I'm kind of with you. I think what it is I think Elon's frustration wasn't necessarily with Trump, but more Trump's decision to follow maybe some of his advisors. So unfortunately, Trump has a lot of delegation that he has to do and operates through many entities. And I think what ended up happening was there was probably a decision made by one of his advisors for right or wrong reasons to get rid of Isaacman. And obviously Elon was very pro Isaacman. And probably there were other opportunities as well, like things that went into the big, beautiful bill and many things that, Elon probably wasn't 100% for. But like I said, Trump's not the one that's writing the bill, right? Trump's not sitting behind a computer desk writing thousands of pages worth of stuff. So unfortunately, he has to operate through other entities. And so I think a lot of what Elon was upset about was maybe just the bureaucratic aspect of the government itself and how it unfortunately operates. And because you're moving this big ship, Elon, while he is running $7-8 billion companies, he's able to be very nimble and move very quickly. But we're talking about, unfortunately, the United States government with a $4 trillion, $350 million person population, not several thousand employees, unfortunately, like in terms of the comparison of the magnitude, makes a very big difference. And so I think that is part of the frustration and dealing with that. I understand where that comes from, dealing with inefficiency as an engineer, as somebody that wants to be a huge mover and making things quickly and changing things quickly. I think he realized that unfortunately, no matter what, you can't do things that quickly, and you have to do them with long-term mindsets. And it's something I have to get used to as well, because I'm very much like, let's change this, and you can't change things in a single day. And so with respect to that, I think that Elon probably directed his anger, unfortunately, towards Trump. But I think in probably conversations that we're not privy to, Elon probably made that evident that he wasn't upset with Trump in the past, right? But more so different people. And I think that maybe Trump is a smart enough guy to recognize two things. One, I think it was very surprising for the media in general to realize that Trump wasn't holding a grudge, regardless of whether or not, to an extent, like Trump could easily be like, no more SpaceX, no more Tesla, like all that. And he kind of did, with respect to, but he didn't just like go off and just have somebody take the Tesla away, right? It was still sitting in the back of the, back of the White House, etc. So, I mean, in that respect, you kind of have to give Trump a little bit of credit to not being so vindictive, and that's something that I need to work on personally. But yeah, so, that I think is very surprising for the mainstream media. But second as well, I think Trump probably has had many conversations with Elon about how frustrating things are. And maybe Trump has just acknowledged it more so than maybe Elon has. And it was his first entry to politics. And being that first entry to politics, you probably hit a breaking point where you're just like, you know what? You kind of have to have an even head about you, unfortunately. And Elon's very quick to make things happen, and unfortunately, it's just not the way that the government works.
Very good take. I was thinking the exact same thing, that if you read his biographies, like Elon has this tendency to not work well with other people, and he like even when he did like PayPal, he wanted to be the CEO, he wanted to go one way, he pissed everyone off, and then he had to be fired eventually from PayPal, and then Tesla was done with other people first. I think it was Martin Eberhard, and he was the original CEO of Tesla, and it didn't work out. He had to be fired, and like somehow Musk excels at like doing things his way, and in a public company, like of course it's very easy to do, but in the US government it's just politics. I mean, it's like, despite what we have been told, there is no dictatorship in the US, and whatever thing that Trump makes, it has to pass through the House, and you don't control, like those people have to vote on it, right? And then you have to get through what you have to get through. And I think that was I think Musk was thinking that he donated so much money to Trump and helped him win, that he like has him in his back pocket, and then he was very frustrated that Trump was not like more easily going into compromise on the budget than Musk would have liked. And yeah, and I also want to say, I also saw it in the comments, that Musk has a tendency to accuse people of being pedo, and he was even taken to court over this. I don't know if you guys remember this diver from Thailand. Who I saw this, that somebody said like, don't you guys think if Trump, because I agree that he's probably in the Epstein files, as in he rubbed shoulders with Epstein, but a lot of people are like and that doesn't mean that they flew on the island or flew on the plane to the island, and don't you guys think that they try to jail Trump with all these court cases, and if he would have been in the Epstein files, like they would not have released just that section of the Epstein files to like put him away? I find that highly unlikely with the leadership of the FBI that we had at that point.
Yeah, that and like you see pictures of Elon's second most recent child, or third, I guess, X. Everyone familiar with his companion, but there's pictures of just him and Trump. And like, if I have even a hunch that some sketchy dude's going to be near my kid, they're not going near my kid, like full stop. So
exactly,
it is kind of a contradiction there. But
second child, try like 10th.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you mean little X, no?
Yeah, so I meant like second most recent, but I think it's like third most recent or something. I don't know. I don't know if he can keep track.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. Okay, cool. So tinfoil hat weekly. So I think we to summarize, all of us think that this is major for Rocket Lab, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So tinfoil hat weekly is over, and this was all the news for Rocket Lab that I had.
There is two more things that I want to hear from you guys on. There's like, one was like a partnership. What was it called? An MOU, or is it a?
I saw that. But
with Nikon.
It was a memorandum of understanding or something like this.
Yeah, so nothing legally binding, but for those interested, I did a light bit of digging, and it's essentially, it's like the partnership would be kind of like the way that you think of 3D printing. It's like that for like high precision metal work. That's what the role of Nikon would be, to facilitate that. So kind of given the time frame, maybe that's for Neutron's second stage, or more likely probably something spacecraft related. So
they would manufacture for Rocket Lab.
I think they would like work with Rocket Lab to build the machine that would manufacture the parts. So it's more like designing the machine together.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And then are you guys privy to the public float increase? I've seen it mentioned in the comment a few times. And
I'm not.
Well, okay. I wish we could just bring Jacob on right now.
The thing that I don't necessarily know much about this stuff when it comes to like the actual floated shares. But all I generally keep track of, and this is what I keep saying, is like I don't know much about floats. I don't know much about that. What I do know about is shares outstanding, diluted, and basic, and for that I can keep it kind of pretty. What's the word I'm looking for? Pretty straightforward, which is there's 513 million shares outstanding post the previous 1Q kind of call, and I know Pete has about 50 or so million in kind of shares that he has that have been converted to preferred shares. And so in terms of total kind of share count, that gets you to like 460 million. But I think what people are kind of referring to is these like institutional shares that previously were kind of like locked up due to previous cap calls and things of the like. Yeah, I mean that all that stuff's over my head. I'm not smart enough for that. But what I can say is 511 million minus 50 gets you to 460, and that's what the current float is. That is kind of being referred to on some of these websites. So
Okay.
but yeah, I mean they seem to put a lot of work into it. I'm not smart enough to follow it. All I can say is 513 million shares minus 50 equals 463, which is the number everyone's quoting.
Yeah, I mean, I think also the main thing that is important is the shares outstanding. It's for whatever reason, not all the shares that are outstanding go into the float, which means that they're not like tradable. I don't know what the rules are on that, but I don't know if I don't think it means anything that the float has become bigger.
Okay.
Maybe the worry is that if there's a bigger float than like the shares that were locked up, like maybe people want to sell them and the price, I don't know, maybe that's the fear, but yeah. All right, we go forward. Redwire we did take up in the very beginning of the episode. The next space news that I wanted to talk about is this article by Eric Berger on Isaacman's bold plan for NASA and what he plans to do after leaving NASA. And this was just interesting. I thought we should mention it. He was really into nuclear electric spaceships, which is very interesting because none of the guys that we follow are talking about nuclear electric engines and propulsions, and I wonder why. I would love to ask this from, let's say, Sir Peter Beck in an interview if we can. This guy, it looks like he wants to maybe go into politics after this, and yeah. That's all. I don't know if you guys checked more into this, Sir Isaacman.
Not really, since that the All In podcast. I'm kind of not really surprised, but content that Isaacman is coming back in some form to Shift 4. He mentioned that he's not going to strip the role of his now replacement CEO, but it is good to have him back on board. But I'm surprised to see that he's considering politics after that podcast, because he seemed to be a little bit dissatisfied with the speed at which they operate.
Yeah, it's interesting because he replaced himself, right, with someone who was going to be for 4 years, and then he lost his job, and then he's really free. Like he if he wants to do something other than Shift 4, now is the time, because he's replaced, right? And like it's already known the stock suffered from it, and yeah, so it's there's not another chance coming in the future for that. All right, we go to the next one, and that is, it looks like Space Launch Complex in Florida 37B was demolished to make way for Falcon Heavy launches or Starship launches for SpaceX from Florida. So the program is moving forward. I don't know if you guys have anything to comment on these. You can cut me off if you have. No. Okay, then we go to the last one that I have for us is the second New Glenn launch slips towards fall as the program leadership departs. And you guys remember that the plan was to have 8 New Glenn launches this year, which seemed very unrealistic. And looks like Jeff Bezos was told on a all-hands staff meeting that it will be max 12, but they are building 8 boosters. And there was 2 guys who have left at the announcement. Apparently, one of them was retiring. That was very well known ahead of time. But the second guy was a very interesting timing because he was the leader of the New Glenn booster production or something like this. I don't want to say something stupid. It's in the article, but a very high-ranking member, teammate from the New Glenn production was basically fired. So it feels like, how does Elon say it? Demos are easy, production is hard, and it's not so easy to scale. Even a company with endless budget, you can't scale a rocket from 0 to 8 launches in 1 year.
Mm-hmm. No,
Just
definitely.
Yeah.
And
So-
apparently this next New Glenn launch, and I'm not sure if I'm getting my wires crossed, but I've heard that
And the Escapade, yeah.
well, yeah, both Escapade, which is Mars bound, but also oh, somebody in the comments help me. It's that one that was supposed to fly with Firefly, the Victus Hayes, was it? I think is also launching on the New Glenn as well.
I haven't heard that one.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I knew it was 2 and I was just kind of left like, is that even possible to have those 2 craft? Because they'd be heading in, I'd think way different trajectories, but
I definitely heard Escapade because Escapade was actually supposed to be the first, and as we know, it got delayed. Because obviously the trajectory, right? They missed it, unfortunately. Which in retrospect is actually pretty interesting. I'm surprised that Rocket Lab would have been like, yeah, sure, the first launch on New Glenn, let's go for it. But interesting. But this has implications on plenty of different companies, right? The follow-on effect, so isn't just New Glenn. I mean, in Blue Origin, it's Rocket Lab, as we've seen. It's our friends at ASTS. It's many companies that unfortunately are planning to utilize New Glenn it's Amazon Kuiper, all that is definitely being impacted by the potential delays. So just fingers crossed, and it's better for everybody if the competition is there, in my opinion. So hopefully they'll be able to figure out the cadence soon, and we'll start to see more and more. I'd love to watch it. I'd love to live stream it and have good conversations with everybody in the chat.
I'll try to be there. Cool. I mean, this was the show for this week, Tinfoil Hat Weekly. I don't know if we missed out anything. Maybe the audience can ask questions if they want in the last few minutes. Other than that, I really enjoyed the show, and luckily there was no kids throwing up this week.
This time,
still no kids throwing up.
Are you buying anything new, Vince? You didn't tell us if you're buying anything new.
No, I mean, I want to do an update video about my situation. So I'm having changes in my companies, and I have these stupid cover calls that I'm babysitting, and I'm waiting for them to go out in January 2026. So it's fantastically boring for me.
Silly question. So, I mean, unfortunately, I don't want to bring this into politics and say who's right and who's wrong, but unfortunately, the United States seems to be being dragged into potential conflicts in the Middle East, whether or not it actually develops or not. Do you think that has implications into the one, Golden Dome contracts and what might happen with that? And 2, do you think in terms of stock price, do you think that people will look to Rocket Lab with their hypersonic technology and Kratos with their hypersonic partnership with Rocket Lab to potentially speed up what's potentially going on and actually do more testing in the second half of this year associated with hypersonic testing? And will that also speed up what's going on in the UK and Australia as well?
That was such a good question, and I freaking missed that one. I actually wanted to take that up, and definitely yes. Like, I mean, the fact that Tel Aviv is being bombarded with and is only being saved by their, I think it's David Sling and their Iron Dome. It just shows the importance of like that this can happen, right? And I think that this will speed up haste and hypersonic testing, and yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, I mean, Rocket Lab has stated many times they're more from a defensive perspective than an offensive perspective, but that does have implications on the Golden Dome piece to make sure the United States remains protected. But even still, learning from the hypersonic aspects in test bed, which is, I think, what most people are looking for. Anyway.
Yeah, Modbox is here. Hello. Oh my God, I missed Rocket Lab Weekly. No problem. You can rewatch it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I had a relative who might need to go to Tel Aviv because of I don't have Jewish relatives. It was like for a medical visit, and then I saw her and I was like, yeah, maybe the hospital is not there anymore. It's very bad. I have this tendency to make jokes when I shouldn't, inappropriate jokes.
No, you're fine. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, I don't know anything. It's way out of my depth, and I'm no geopolitical expert. But whether or not this is true, I've seen many reports of the mainstream media that unfortunately the Iron Dome has not been, and it's always never been 100% successful. But it seemed like, at least from what I've seen in terms of media posts, that it's for some reason this time not nearly as accurate as previously expected. So not sure if that's due to what type of vehicles are being used or what type of potential ballistics are being used and from Iran to attack Tel Aviv. But yeah, just I don't want any war personally.
Yeah, I think it also has to do with the sheer number that was sent at the same time, because it's like it uses, I guess it has a certain amount of, countercepting rockets that it can shoot up, and a certain amount of sensors and tracking, and I think you can overwhelm it by just sending too many things at the same time. That's what I read in any case.
Yeah. And yes, I recognize that, Curtis, that the Iron Dome is more so specifically around Israel versus the Golden Dome is the United States trying to set up their own similar sort of defense system. Whether it's going to be like for like the Iron Dome, probably not, but at least it's going to help defend against intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is why when people were giving Trump so much crap about Greenland, that was also part of it as well. Because if you think about it, Greenland is more north. And so we obviously have a great partnership and relationship with Canada, but there's many different things as to why Greenland potentially from a national security standpoint could have played well. And like I said, I'm speaking out of my depth, but this is just my interpretation of it. But you have a lot of opportunity to put some sort of military defense, rocket defense, intercontinental ballistic missile defense, because if you are coming from, say, Russia, it's easier to go over the Arctic. I mean, I think a lot of times we think you have to go over the Atlantic or the Pacific, but in more reality, you're likely to go over the Arctic. So coming north over the pole. And so if Greenland is able to be there first and help defend against the broader United States with a larger population, and that's useful. And then secondarily, there's also thoughts about in north of Canada. So this is out of my depth as well, but there's a lot of glacial ice that is unfortunately starting to melt to make ship passages kind of more so throughout the islands. And maybe Scott can talk on this more than I can, but the hope is their thought process is that instead of using the Panama Canal, which has obviously been in contention with the Trump administration, that you could potentially use the ship channels that are potentially going to be able to be developed through the Canadian islands that is kind of in the northeastern part of Canada. I don't know if that's Nunavut or what have you. I'm not good with my states in geology from a Canada perspective, but that's all I know, and that's at least my interpretation. I could be 150% wrong.
No, I think you're pretty well on the mark, Matty. Yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and one question, Matt. Do you want to publicly disclose what we spoke about in the private chat with a possible, you speaking to someone special, or not? Yeah.
I think I've made it. I'm trying. We're trying to talk to folks. Sorry, I thought you meant like some chick or something. I'm like, which one? No, I'm just kidding. But no. No, so I did reach out, and the hope is that we can get Frank on. We don't have any confirmation or anything like that, but we're obviously posting our case, and I think all of us are just very curious. It's been 9 months or so since Frank's joined, and we're all just very excited to see what he's been working on. Is it Dave asked specifically about Archimedes, Scott surprisingly asked about reaction wheels, Vince asked about Vince, what was your thoughts?
I mean, I'm really curious on how the automotive manufacturing is like translating over it, because like, you know, when you're making autos, it's like how many cars are coming off the production line like every 30 minutes or every you know, right. and then with the rocket, it's like we're gonna make 12 this year, you know, and then I'm like, what is he like? Is such a different, like, is he there like for the quality to like he's checking like with the German, you know, like precision, or are they like going to switch into a whole new production mode? And
precisely,
maybe he's not even in rock, maybe he's on the satellites, and was he over Rocket Lab manufacturing, or was he over maybe he's making
part of it.
Maybe he's making the reaction wheels. He's like, guys, we need every 5 minutes a new reaction wheel.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think you're right. I mean, I don't necessarily know, and I think that's part of it as well. And I've also been curious, specifically diving on what you said, Vince, which is, I mean, we know that Rocket Lab takes extreme care into the quality of product that they put out, right? The Ferraris of the sky, or Ferraris in terms of the rocket industry, is what they've kind of been called in the past. And so as you're ramping up that cadence, and also potentially the cadence along reaction wheels, as Scott is interested in, and Archimedes, how do you best balance that? And how is not only that happening, but Frank does come from that world of, like you stated, getting out as many products as possible to be able to increase overall margins. How do you play that balance between quality and quantity to an extent where you are really working on things, and in that respect, right, where you're not just focusing on, you know, being Ford, where you don't necessarily care about the specific gaps that might show up in your door panels or something like that, right? And what do you focus on, right? What KPIs is he focusing on? Or is he even not even focusing on Neutron? He's more so focusing on the satellite components business.
Maybe he's all day checking private islands, because I mean, I'm always joking about this, but I'm like, does he get distracted? Because I think he got a couple of $1 million in stock-based compensation, and those couple of million is like 10x since he came. So he's like, maybe he got, I don't remember the number now, but I think it was like $1.8 million or $4 million, something like this. So if he got 4 million, that's probably like 30 something million dollars that he has. And I'm like, he was extremely lucky, and I'm like, is he distracted by that in any way, or just feels lucky, or maybe like doesn't even think about it, or
Yeah, I think it was well timed, his entry and the shares that he got, and then of course the market ran over the past 9 months very well. So, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens. I would love love to have them on. And even if they're like, you know what, just give them a couple more months, I'd be fine with that. But eventually, you know, I could be wrong on this one as well. I've been looking to see him on any sort of conferences or anything like that, and I have yet to. So he's not obligated. No, neither is Rocket Lab. I mean, I'm just happy enough to be able to talk to Adam and Pete, you know, every couple months. And if we were able to get Frank, I would love to direct and get a little bit more granular behind the scenes, because I feel like we ask very general, like, milestone questions, but talking to Frank, he's really trying to eliminate, you know, certain parts or combine parts, or, you know, what is he seeing and what is he focusing on? How's he getting along with the team? Because it is a different culture. So
he will come on the show and he's like, you guys know this Sir Peter Beck guy? He's so complicated. He's like making these 5 parts. I can't, with the German accent, you know, I can't manufacture them. So I made them into 2. I told him, Peter, you're too complicated. No, I can't do, yeah. But will be very interesting with his viewpoint. Don't know how much he can say.
But it's tough because it's not like you just have one part of the business that's growing, right? You have all parts of the business growing. And so to be able to manage that and work through teams and work through others, especially by joining the company, you know, just 9 months ago, in an unfamiliar industry as well. But Frank's got 30 years of experience, so I'd love to hear his thoughts and how he can use that experience, like you stated, Vince, to make things better for the company, especially as we go towards billion-dollar run rates, right? I mean, just a few months ago, we were only talking about $50-60 million a quarter. Here we are thinking about $140 million quarters, and soon enough, we'll be talking about $250 to $300 million quarters. So,
amen to that. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for being here on the show, and yeah, see you guys next week. May the stock stay blue, may the sky stay blue and your stock stay green. Yeah, ciao everyone.
Yep.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.